Okay, so for the benefit of some users who have been asking how to install Docker and set it up properly in a Windows machine, I'm going to do it here, and I'm going to show you over video how to do it. So this is a process where I'm assuming that you already have Docker installed in your computer. If you follow all the instructions, you should have the Docker instance running. In my case, I know because I have this icon in my taskbar that tells me that Docker desktop installed successfully and that it is running. So that's all I really care. So let's follow the instructions on um, on the document. It says that the first step is to open terminal. Now, you can do either two things. You can do this from terminal, or you can do this by right-clicking on your desktop and creating a new folder. The folder name must match whatever we requested it to be named, which is MMBIOS 2020. And that is fine. The alternative is to do it through terminal. And if we do it through terminal, all you have to do is open the command prompt. See, you look for the command prompt and you open. And this is the terminal for the command prompt for Windows. Now, using the command make directory to create a desktop folder. Notice that if your username has white spaces, you need to put the user profile between double quotes. And the user profile is just a way to refer to your profile information without actually knowing the name. So all I'm saying is I am connected as ComBio, computational bio, and in that account on the desktop, create a folder called MMBIOS 2020. If I did this correctly, I should see a folder created on the desktop. So that is fine. So I can see that now. Now the next step is to pull the image from the web. I already pulled the image because I'm not going to show you for 10 minutes how the image gets downloaded. But since I already downloaded the image, Docker is just going to tell me that I already have reference to it, so it's fine. If you have not downloaded the image before, then it will start a process, and depending on your internet connection, this process can take up to 10 minutes to download the Docker image and then decompress it. So the next step is to make my local folder available on Docker. Now, the main difference between the Windows version and the other versions is that due to security, you need to tell Docker that this folder that we created on the desktop can be used by Docker. Now, what you need to do is go back here to the taskbar, to that little icon, which means that Docker is running, and you right-click on it, and then on all the options that you're going to see here, you're just going to select the settings. You're going to wait. And these are the settings for the current Docker engine that, as you can see, it's running on this machine. And from this menu, you're just going to select resources. And then on resources, you're going to go to the file sharing option. And you're going to see that I can click on this little button and then it's going to open. And I did this before, that's why I went directly to that folder, but you can go to the desktop and select that folder that you created, column and BIOS, and click on it. And you're going to realize that it's going to get added to this list. When you click apply and restart, what you need to do right now, it doesn't restart your machine. It restarts the Docker engine. And this may take several minutes. In this case, I'm using a relatively not so powerful laptop, so it will take a few minutes to restart the engine. Now, notice that I know that the engine is not running properly because if you type any commands associated with Docker, they're going to fail. So let's just wait for a little while for this to apply and restart. What happened? Oh, did it restart properly? Well, let's see if it did. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to restart manually. Roster Docker desktop. You want to continue? Yes. Just to make sure. I don't know what happened there, but just to make sure, I'm going to ask it to restart. You're going to see that the icon changes a little bit, like it's a little whale is running. So wait until this becomes static or until Docker desktop says it's finished restarting, and then we should be ready to go. Now, again, notice that while this process is happening, if I type any command, it will just complain that it doesn't know. Oh, wait, wrong command. But it doesn't know what it's doing, right? You get that error from the daemon that Docker is not running. So we have to wait again because this process is relatively slow. It depends on each machine. And there you go. It should be running. Now, if I type a command again, like Docker images, it should list the image that I downloaded, which is that MMBIOS for the workshop today. If I did everything correctly, what's going to happen is that when I run the command to start the container, which is this command here, I should get a running instance. So let's see if that is the case. Wait, I don't know how to paste in Windows. How do I? Can't believe I don't know how to copy paste in Windows. Okay, there we go. So the command Docker runs initiates a Docker container from the Docker image. And apparently it worked. And how do I know that it worked? Well, because it started and it gives me the message at the end of a URL. And this last URL that I get here, I'm going to copy, again, Control C, and I'm going to open it in a browser. And if I'm lucky, I'm going to see Docker container. Make sure to don't turn off this terminal. You can minimize it or you can run it in parallel with this window because whatever is happening in Docker container is going to be shown. So let's look at this. This folder that I have on my desktop called MMBIOS is the equivalent of this folder called local within the Docker container. So if, for example, right now I create a folder and I call it temp, for example, it should show up here within my Docker container. As you see, it showed. And if I erase it, it should go away. Now, that's about it. You're going to see later during the workshop that every file that we generate using the notebooks that have been provided by the CellOrganizer team will create files in this folder within the Docker container, and in turn, they're going to show up in your desktop. Now, this is a very important concept because the files that you're analyzing and you're creating reside in your machine and do not reside in the container. So if you erase the container or for any reason decide to remove Docker at all, your files will not be removed because they live on your desktop on a folder called MMBIOS 2020. Okay, and that's it. Those are the instructions to set up an instance in Windows. If you have any questions, feel free to ask within the chat. As someone raised one concern that they're absolutely true, that it is unfortunate, but Docker does not run on Windows Home Edition. It is to my understanding that you need Professional Edition to install Docker. If you have any issues, again, talk to us over the chat.